The news spread through the institute like fire. By the next morning, everyone knew. The humans had won the survival simulation. More than that, they had saved the other teams while winning. Yun walked through the corridors and felt eyes on him. Students whispered as he passed. Some looked curious. Some looked frightened. Some looked angry. He was not sure which reaction was worse. An emergency faculty meeting was called. Hyun, Mirai, and Jinho were summoned to present their research findings. Dr. Sora, a human professor of xenopsychology, met them outside the auditorium. They are not happy, she said quietly. What you proved yesterday scares them. Be ready for difficult questions. The auditorium was packed. Faculty members from every department sat in rows, their various forms creating a strange rainbow of colors and shapes. Chancellor Rickstar, the institute's ancient reptilian leader, sat in the center. His scales were gray with age, but his eyes were sharp. Professor Thelvek stood at the podium. We are here to discuss the implications of yesterday's simulation. I have asked the human students to present their theory. Hyun walked to the front with Mirai and Jinho. His hands shook slightly as he pulled up their research on the display. We studied why humans survived Earth when other Deathworld predators failed, he began. We found that humans evolved cooperation alongside predatory traits. We learned to work together on a massive scale. We developed empathy that extends to other species. We adapted instead of specializing. This is why we survived. Mirai took over, showing data from human evolution. Our stress response is unique. Most species shut down under extreme fear. Humans activate. We think clearer, move faster, cooperate better. Fear does not paralyze us. It focuses us. Jinho added the cultural analysis. Human history shows cooperation expanding over time. From families to tribes to nations to our entire planet. We chose cooperation even when we had weapons that could destroy us. We chose peace when war was easier. When they finished, the auditorium was silent. Then a Korvath military observer stood up. His form was covered in ceremonial armor. I watched your simulation. What you proved is terrifying. Humans outsurvived, predators evolved for combat. You are from a more dangerous world than ours. You have only been in space for 150 years. What will you be capable of in 1,000 years? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Agreement. Fear. A Valorian scientist spoke next. Your cooperation could be a weapon. What if humanity decides to expand by force? Your adaptability makes you unpredictable. Dangerous. More voices joined in. The auditorium filled with concern and suspicion. Hyun felt his chest tighten. This was not what he wanted. He just wanted to answer a question. He did not mean to make people afraid. Professor Thelvex raised a hand for silence. I must admit the data supports the human student's theory. But I share some concerns. If humans evolved empathy and cooperation as predatory advantages, what happens when those advantages are used for conquest instead of survival? Hyun stood up. His voice came out stronger than he expected. Then how am I here? The auditorium went quiet again. That was my original question, Hyun continued. How did humans survive if it was impossible? But there is a second question. If humans are so dangerous, why did we not destroy ourselves? We had nuclear weapons. We came very close to using them. We could have ended like the Gorvok predators, burning our world to nothing. But we did not. We chose differently. Mirai stood beside him. Humans are predators, yes, but we are also capable of choosing peace. Our empathy is not just a survival tool. It is genuine. We care about beings that are not us. We help even when it costs us. That is not a weapon. That is who we are, Jinho added. You fear humanity because you assume predatory traits must lead to violence. But our evolution proves the opposite. Predatory efficiency combined with empathy does not create monsters. It creates a species capable of both surviving the unsurvivable and choosing kindness. A voice came from the audience. Velthar stood up. Hyun was surprised to see his lab partner here. I was wrong about humans, Velthar said, his crystalline voice clear. I called them an anomaly. Evolutionary noise. I watched the simulation yesterday. I saw humans risk themselves to save others. I saw them share resources with competitors. The data supports not just human survival, but human exceptionalism. He paused. But I have a challenge for you, Hyun. Prove that human cooperation is not just survival instinct. Prove it is a genuine philosophical choice. Show us that humans choose to help not because they must, but because they want to. Hyun did not know how to answer that. How do you prove what is in someone's heart? Chancellor Rixtar spoke for the first time, his ancient voice carrying weight. This is a serious matter. We will form a formal inquiry into the human question. We will study human behavior, human culture, human choices. This will take time. Until we have answers, judgment is suspended. The meeting ended without resolution. Students and faculty filed out, still arguing. Hyun stood with Mirai and Jinho, feeling exhausted. Dr. Sora approached them. You did well. You presented your case clearly. But Velthar's challenge is important. Theory is one thing. Proving genuine altruism is another. How do we prove it? Hyun asked. Dr. Sora shook her head. I do not know. But I think the universe will provide an opportunity. It always does. That night Hyun could not sleep. He kept thinking about the fear in the auditorium. People were afraid of humans now. Not because humans had done anything wrong, but because of what they might do. Because they were capable of being dangerous. But being capable of danger was not the same as choosing danger. Humans were also capable of kindness, of sacrifice, of love for beings completely different from themselves. He thought about his home, Earth, the beautiful, deadly planet that made his species. A world so harsh it should have destroyed them. Instead, it made them strong enough to survive and kind enough to help others survive too. His communicator beeped. A message from Mirai. Can't sleep either. Meet me in the observation deck. He found her staring out at the stars. Jinho was already there too. The three humans stood together in the quiet darkness. Do you think we made things worse? Jinho asked softly. Now everyone is afraid of us. Maybe, Mirai admitted. But we told the truth. That matters. Hyun watched the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there were billions of humans living their lives not knowing that aliens were debating whether humanity was a threat or a hope. We will prove it, he said quietly. Velthar wants proof that human kindness is real. We will find a way to show them. How? Mirai asked. Hyun did not have an answer. Not yet, but he knew it would come. The universe had a way of testing people, and when that test came, humanity would show what they were really made of. We wait, he said. We study, we learn. And when the moment comes, we act. We show them that humans are not perfect, but we try to be better. That is what makes us human. The three of them stood in silence, watching the stars turn slowly in the infinite dark. Somewhere out there, Hyun thought, was a chance to prove everything. A chance to show that humans were not monsters or anomalies or lucky accidents. They were humans, survivors of Earth, children of a death world, and they chose kindness even when the universe did not require it. That had to count for something. The Institute's library never closed. Hyun discovered this on his third night of searching through data files. The enormous room hummed quietly with computers and holographic displays. Most students were asleep in their quarters, but Hyun could not stop reading. He pulled up files about Karvath Prime, the first Class 12 death world ever discovered. The planet was dead now, but millions of years ago it had been filled with life. Terrible, violent life. The predators there had been massive and intelligent. They used simple tools. They built basic shelters. Scientists believed they were close to developing real civilization. But then they found the fossil records. The predators had fought each other constantly over territory. Eventually, they killed themselves off in endless wars. Hyun moved to the next file, Thessar 9. The predators there had been different. They were ambush hunters, perfectly designed for their environment. Too perfectly designed. When the climate changed, they could not adapt. They were too specialized. Within a few thousand years, they were extinct. The third world was Gorvok. This one hurt to read. The predators there actually built cities. They had art and language and culture. For 500 years, they created beautiful things. Then they discovered advanced weapons and destroyed themselves in nuclear fire. 3 Class 12 worlds. 3 predator species that tried to survive. 3 extinctions. You are here late again. Hyun jumped. Mirai stood behind him, holding a container of what looked like coffee. She smiled and sat down without asking. I keep thinking about your question, she said. I cannot stop thinking about it. So I came looking for you. The library computer said someone was accessing Deathworld files all night. I guessed it was you. Hyun gestured at his screen. They all failed. Every predator species from Class 12 worlds. They all died. But we didn't, Mirai said softly. She pulled up a chair and started opening her own files. I have been researching too. Look at this. She showed him human evolutionary data. What makes us different? I keep asking myself that. We are predators just like the ones that failed. We came from an equally dangerous world. So what changed? They worked together through the night, comparing data. Hyun would find something about the failed predators. Mirai would pull up human history, back and forth building a picture. As the station's artificial sun began to brighten, Mirai suddenly sat up straight. Hyun, look at this. She had pulled up images of ancient humans with dogs. We domesticated wolves. We took wild predators and made them our friends. No other predator species did that. They competed with other predators. They killed them or drove them away. But humans? We made them family. Hyun felt excitement building. It is not just wolves. We domesticated prey animals too. Cows, sheep, chickens. We did not just hunt them. We kept them, protected them, cared for them. Pack bonding, Mirai said, typing quickly, but not just with our own species. We evolved to bond with other species entirely. That is strange. That is really strange. Over the next week, they fell into a pattern. Classes during the day, research at night. Other students noticed. Velthar asked Hyun what he was working on. Hyun showed him some of their findings. Interesting, Velthar said, his crystalline face unreadable. But this proves you are unusual, not that you solved the predator problem. Perhaps bonding with other species was the anomaly that let you survive. Hyun wanted to argue, but Velthar had a point. They had found something different about humans, but not the answer. Not yet. One night, Mirai brought someone else to the library. This is Jinho, she said.
He studies anthropology.
I told him about our research. Jinho was older than them, a third-year student with tired eyes and an eager smile. Mirai said, you are studying why humans survived Earth. I have been studying human culture for 2 years. Maybe I can help. He pulled up his own research. Look at human behavior under stress. Most species shut down when they are scared. Their thinking becomes slower. Their bodies freeze. But humans? When humans are terrified, they think faster. They move quicker. They work together better. Hyun stared at the data. It was true. In emergency situations, human brains released chemicals that enhanced performance instead of limiting it. Other species experienced fear as a shutdown response. Humans experienced it as activation. The fight-or-flight response, Jinho continued. Other species mostly flight. They run away. Humans fight. Or we run toward the danger to protect others. It is backwards from normal prey behavior, and different from normal predator behavior too. The three of them worked through the night. Jinho brought cultural data, stories from human history about people running into burning buildings to save strangers, soldiers throwing themselves on explosives to protect their friends, parents fighting off predators 3 times their size to defend their children. It is not just survival instinct, Mirai said slowly. Other animals protect their own offspring, but humans protect everyone. We empathize with strangers, with other species. We help even when it does not benefit us. Hyun pulled up the data on Gorvok again. Look, the Gorvok predators built civilization, but they kept fighting each other. Every city competed with every other city. They could cooperate in small groups, but not on a large scale. Eventually, it destroyed them. And humans? Jinho asked. Hyun showed them Earth's history. We fought too. Wars everywhere. But we also built trade networks across continents. We created international laws. We shared knowledge across cultures. And when we developed nuclear weapons like the Gorvok, we chose not to destroy ourselves. The room was quiet except for the hum of computers. So humans survived, Mirai said finally. Because we evolved cooperation alongside our predator traits. We learned to work together on a massive scale. We learned to care about beings that were not us. We turned our pack bonding instincts into something bigger. The other predators competed until they died, Jinho added. Humans competed and cooperated at the same time. That is the difference. Hyun felt something click in his mind. This was it. This was the answer. We need to write this down, all of it. Make it official. They spent the next 3 days compiling their research into a proper paper. Data from the failed Deathworlds, human evolutionary history, cultural analysis, stress response studies. Everything fit together into one clear picture. When they finished, Mirai sat back and rubbed her eyes. We have the answer. We know why humans survived. But will anyone believe us? Hyun thought about Professor Thelvex. About the laughter in the classroom. About Velthar calling humans an anomaly. No, he said honestly. They will not believe us just because we wrote it down. We need proof. Real proof. What kind of proof? Jinho asked. Hyun stared at their research paper on the screen. All those words and data and graphs. It was convincing to him, but he already wanted to believe it. To everyone else at the Institute, it would just be 3 human students trying to make their species look special. We need to demonstrate it, he said. Not just explain it, show it. Prove that human cooperation is not just theory. Mirai's eyes lit up. The simulation labs. They have survival scenarios. What if we challenged other predator species to a comparison test? Professor Thelvex would never approve that, Jinho said doubtfully. He would if he thought we would fail, Hyun said quietly. He thinks humans are weak. An evolutionary mistake. If we challenge him, he will say yes because he wants to prove his point. The 3 humans looked at each other. This was risky. If they failed, it would prove everyone right. Humans were just lucky prey animals playing at being predators. But if they succeeded, then we show them, Mirai said firmly. We show them how humans really survive. Hyun nodded slowly. His heart was beating fast, but his mind was clear. This was the right choice. This was the only choice. Tomorrow, he said. Tomorrow we go to Professor Thelvex and make our challenge. Professor Thelvex looked at the 3 humans standing in his office. His compound eyes glittered with what might have been amusement. You want to do what? Hyun kept his voice steady. A survival simulation. Humans versus other predator species. To test our theory about why humans survived Earth, the professor made a clicking sound. Definitely amusement. You realize this will prove my point, yes? That humans are not true apex predators? Then you have nothing to lose by approving it, Mirai said. Her voice was calm, but her hands were clenched. Professor Thelvex studied them for a long moment. Then he made a sound that the translator called laughter. Very well. I will sponsor your experiment. It will be educational for everyone, especially for you 3. 1 week later, Hyun stood in the simulation preparation room. His heart pounded. Around him, Mirai and Jinho were checking their equipment. They wore simple survival gear. No weapons, no advanced technology, just basics. You ready? Mirai asked. She looked nervous but determined. Hyun nodded. He was not sure if he was ready, but they were doing this anyway. The simulation would run for 72 simulated hours, about 6 real hours. 5 teams would compete. The human team, a team of Rexians, massive hunters from a Class 7 world. A team of Korvath, pack predators known for coordination. A team of Zarathan, ambush specialists. And a team of professors as the control group. The goal was simple: survive, build shelter, find food and water, avoid threats. Points would be given for how well each team did. The simulation was set to Class 10 Deathworld conditions. Not as bad as Earth, but still deadly. Professor Thelvex had insisted on this. If humans are truly from a Class 12 world, he had said, then Class 10 should be easy for them. The world materialized around them. Dense jungle, hot, humid air. The sounds of things moving in the underbrush. Hyun's every instinct screamed danger. We start with water, Jinho said immediately. Humans need water more than food. We have maybe 3 days without it. They moved through the jungle carefully. Hyun listened to the sounds around them. In the observation deck above, he knew students and professors were watching. Velthar would be there. Professor Thelvex. Everyone waiting to see the humans fail. Through the trees, Hyun caught glimpses of the other teams. The Vrexians were already hunting, their powerful bodies moving with deadly grace. The Zarathan had vanished, using their natural camouflage. The Korvath worked in perfect coordination, surrounding prey with practiced ease. There, Mirai pointed. A stream, barely visible through the vegetation. They made their way to it. Jinho tested the water with a simple kit. Clean enough, he said. We can drink this. While they drank, Hyun studied their surroundings. They needed shelter. The sky looked strange, colors shifting in a way that meant weather was coming. Bad weather. Storm, he said. We need to build something. Fast. They worked together, gathering materials. Long branches, large leaves, vines that could serve as rope. None of them were as strong as the Vrexians or as fast as the Korvath, but they worked efficiently, each person knowing what the others needed without speaking. Jinho showed them an ancient human shelter design. My ancestors used this in tropical regions on Earth. It sheds water and stays stable in wind. As they built, Hyun noticed something. The other teams were doing well. The Vrexians had killed a large animal and were eating. The professor team had set up a high-tech camp with all the advanced tools. The Korvath had constructed a basic shelter. Humans were falling behind. He could feel the eyes watching from above, confirming their beliefs. Humans were slow, weak, not real predators. Then the storm hit. It came faster than Hyun expected. The sky turned dark green. Wind screamed through the jungle. Rain fell like hammers. Lightning cracked so close he could feel it in his teeth. The Vrexian shelter collapsed immediately. The massive predators roared in confusion as debris flew everywhere. The Zarathan went, completely still, their bodies entering some kind of defensive hibernation. The Korvath scattered, their pack coordination breaking down in the chaos. The professor team's technology started failing. The electromagnetic storm interfered with their equipment. Alarms blared, and the human shelter held. "Stay low," Mireille shouted over the wind. "Keep the center supported." They huddled together, using their combined weight to anchor the structure. Rain poured through gaps, but the main shelter stayed intact. Hyun's hands shook. His heart raced. Fear pounded through him, but his mind stayed clear, sharp, focused. Through the storm, he heard something, a sound of distress. He looked out and saw one of the Korvath, separated from their pack, trapped under a fallen branch. "There," he pointed. "That is not our problem," Jinho said, but his voice was uncertain. Hyun looked at Mirai. She looked back. They did not need to speak. "We have to help," Hyun said. He ran into the storm. Wind tried to throw him down. Rain blinded him, but he reached the Korvath and grabbed the branch. He was not strong enough to lift it alone. Then Mirai was there. Then Jinho. Together they lifted. The Korvath pulled free. It looked at them with surprise in its alien eyes, then limped toward its teammates. The humans fought their way back to shelter. They were soaked and exhausted, but they were smiling. The storm raged for hours. When it finally passed, the jungle was transformed. Trees down everywhere. The stream had become a rushing river. Most of the team's progress was destroyed. The humans emerged from their shelter. Around them, other teams struggled. The Vrexians looked lost without their comfortable camp. The professors argued about what to do without their technology. The Korvath were scattered and disorganized. "We should help them," Mirai said, and they did. They showed the Vrexians how to rebuild with available materials. They helped the professor team improvise solutions without technology. They gathered the scattered Korvath and helped them regroup. The other team stared at them like they were crazy. Why help your competitors? But the humans kept working, sharing knowledge, sharing resources, making sure everyone would survive. When the simulation finally ended, Hyun stood with his team, covered in mud and exhausted. The scoring appeared on displays. The humans had the highest survival rating, but more than that, every other team had survived too, because the humans made sure of it. In the observation deck there was silence. Professor Thelvex stared at the results. Velthar's crystalline face reflected the lights, unreadable. Hyun looked up at the observation window. He could not see individual faces, but he knew they were watching, judging, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. "Do you think they understand now?" Jinho asked quietly. Hyun thought about the storm, about running into danger to help someone else, about working together when every instinct said to compete, about staying focused despite fear. "Maybe," he said, "or maybe they just think we are crazy." Mirai laughed, tired but genuine. "Maybe we are. Maybe that is what it takes to survive a Deathworld. You have to be a little crazy. Crazy enough to care about others when you should only care about yourself." The simulation chamber doors opened. They walked out together. 3 humans who had just proven something important. They just were not sure if anyone was ready to accept the proof. The classroom was enormous. Hyun sat near the back, trying to make himself smaller. Around him sat creatures from dozens of different worlds. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some glowed softly in colors he had no names for. And then there was Hyun, just a human, with his plain skin and plain hair and plain everything. Professor Thelvex clicked across the floor on 6 legs. His insect body gleamed under the bright lights. He was teaching about dangerous planets today. The holographic display above his head showed spinning worlds in reds and oranges. Class 12 Deathworlds, the professor said, his voice buzzing through the translator, are the most dangerous planets in our galaxy. Everything on these worlds wants to kill you. The plants are poison, the animals are predators. The weather itself tries to end your life. Only 4 such worlds have ever been found. Hyun watched as images of alien jungles filled the display. Massive creatures with too many teeth, storms that could strip metal from bones, plants that moved like animals. On every Class 12 world we have studied, Professor Thelvex continued, predator species either died out or never became smart. The energy needed just to survive was too much. Their brains could not grow. They fought and killed and eventually disappeared. The professor's 4th arm gestured at the display. A blue and green planet appeared. Hyun's chest tightened. He knew that planet. He was born there. Earth, said Professor Thelvex, our 4th and final Class 12 Death World. And here we find something very strange, something that should not exist according to everything we know. Velthar, who sat next to Hyun, leaned forward. His crystalline body chimed softly. Velthar was the smartest student in class. He was always polite to Hyun, but Hyun could tell what he really thought. Humans were interesting the way a strange rock was interesting. Curious but not important. Humans, the professor said, and several students turned to look at Hyun. He felt his face grow warm. Humans are predators from a Class 12 world who became intelligent. This should be impossible. This has never happened anywhere else. A student in the front row raised 3 arms. Perhaps humans are not really predators. Maybe they are prey animals who learned to use tools. Laughter rippled through the classroom. Hyun looked down at his desk. An interesting theory, Professor Thelvex said, but the evidence says otherwise. Humans have forward-facing eyes. They have teeth designed for tearing meat. Their ancestors hunted in groups. All the markers of predator evolution are present. Velthar spoke up, his voice like wind chimes. Then clearly humans are an anomaly. A statistical error. They got lucky with tool use before their predator nature destroyed them. More students nodded and made sounds of agreement. Hyun felt something hot building in his chest. It was not quite anger. Not quite sadness. Something else, perhaps, said another student. Humans evolved somewhere else, a safer world, and then moved to Earth later. The classroom erupted in excited discussion. Yes, that made sense. That explained everything. Humans could not possibly be from Earth, not really. The math did not work. The biology did not work. It was impossible. Hyun raised his hand. His voice came out smaller than he wanted. Then how am I here? The classroom went quiet. Professor Thelvex tilted his head, compound eyes glittering. I am sorry, Hyun, could you repeat that? Hyun stood up slowly. His legs felt shaky, but he made himself speak louder. You said no predator survives a Class 12 world. You said it is impossible for predators to become intelligent on death worlds. But I am here. My whole species is here, so how? Professor Thelvex made a clicking sound. That is more of a philosophical question than a scientific one, I think. We are discussing biology, not philosophy. But before Hyun could sit down, another voice spoke up. No. It was Mireille. She was in her 2nd year, one of only 3 humans at the whole institute. She stood up from her seat near the front. It is a scientific question, a very important one. Mireille walked to the front of the room. She was not afraid like Hyun. She pulled up data on the display with quick, confident movements. Images of human skeletons appeared. Human eyes, human teeth. Look at this, Mireille said, pointing. Our eyes face forward for judging distance to prey. Our teeth are designed for eating both meat and plants. Our ancestors hunted animals by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We hunted in packs using cooperation and planning. We made tools while we were still apex predators, not after. She pulled up more data. Our evolutionary history is clear. We are from Earth. We evolved there over millions of years. We are predators, and we survived. So Hyun's question is correct. How did we do what you say is impossible? Professor Thelvek studied the data. His antennae twitched. The data could be incomplete, or humans could simply be an anomaly. Evolution sometimes produces statistical outliers. Rare events do happen. Evolutionary noise, Velthar added helpfully. Interesting but not meaningful. Mireille's face tightened. She looked like she wanted to say more. But Professor Thelvex was already moving on to the next topic. The moment passed. Yoon sat down slowly. Around him, students whispered and clicked and hummed to each other. He heard the words, anomaly, error, lucky, impossible. But something had changed inside Hyun. For the first time since arriving at this school, he felt something stronger than uncertainty. He felt the need to know, really know. When class ended, Mireille caught up with him in the hallway. That was good, she said, asking that question. Most humans here just stay quiet. I do not think the professor liked it, Hyun said. He did not have a good answer, Mireille corrected. That is different. She studied Hyun's face. You really want to know, don't you? How we survived? Hyun nodded. Me too, Mireille said quietly. Me too. That night Hyun could not sleep. He kept thinking about the professor's words, about the laughter in the classroom, about the way everyone looked at him like he was a puzzle that did not quite fit. He got out of bed and went to his computer. The Institute's library was enormous, filled with data from thousands of worlds. He started searching. Class 12 worlds. Predator species. Evolution on Deathworlds. Hours passed. Hyun read about the other 3 Class 12 planets. He read about predators that killed themselves fighting over territory. Predators that became so specialized they could not adapt when their world changed. Predators that briefly built civilizations before destroying everything in wars. Every story ended the same way. The predators failed. They always failed, except humans. Humans were still here. Hyun leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere in all this data there had to be an answer. There had to be a reason. He just had to find it. The question echoed in his mind as he finally drifted off to sleep at his desk. How am I here? How am I here? How am I here? The emergency alert came at 3 a.m. Station time. Red lights flashed through the corridors. A harsh siren pulled everyone from sleep. Taemin was dressed and at his post within 2 minutes. Years of military training made him fast when danger called. Commander Bora stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing star maps and distress signals. Her face was grim. Station Meridian is under attack, she said as senior officers gathered around her. The Skarath hit them with an EMP weapon. All technology is offline. Shields, weapons, communications, everything. Lieutenant Hana pulled up tactical data. The Skarath are boarding the station now. Galactic defense forces are in disarray. Without their weapons and shields, they do not know how to fight. Velrax clicked his mandibles. This is what humans warned us about. We became too dependent on technology. How many civilians are on Meridian? Taemin asked. 5,000, Bora said, including 200 children from the diplomatic school. The command center went quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. If the station fell, thousands would die. We need to send help, Taemin said. Now, before the Skarath secure their position. With what forces? An older instructor asked. Our combat troops are 3 days away. By the time they arrive, it will be too late. Taemin looked at Commander Bora. Send us, the cadets who trained in close combat. We can fight without technology. They are students, the older instructor protested. Not soldiers. This would be suicide. They are trained, Velrax said, surprising everyone. Lieutenant Taemin and I have been preparing them for exactly this situation. We can fight without energy weapons. We can adapt. Bora studied Taemin's face. You know what you are asking? You would be leading students into combat. Some of them might die. Yes, Taemin said quietly. But if we do nothing, thousands will definitely die. We trained for this. Let us use what we learned. Bora made her decision. Gather your volunteers. You leave in 1 hour. Take whatever equipment you can carry. Assume all technology will fail once you reach the station. Taemin assembled his students in the training bay. Jiwoo, Kalos, Dax, and 30 others. All of them had trained hard for months. But training was different from real combat. He needed to be honest with them. This is volunteer only, he said. No one will judge you if you choose to stay. This will be dangerous. Some of us might not come back. Think carefully before you decide. No one left. Every single student stood their ground. Jiwoo's skin glowed with determination. Kalos's scales were set in a battle pattern. Dax held a metal pipe like he had been taught. "We trained for this," Jiwoo said. "You taught us to be ready when everything goes wrong. Now everything has gone wrong. We are ready." Velrax stepped forward. "I am coming too. You will need an experienced instructor with you." Taemin nodded. He felt pride and fear in equal measure. Pride in these brave students. Fear that he might fail them. They loaded onto a transport ship. Each person carried simple weapons. Metal bars, knives, rope, nothing electronic. Taemin gave final instructions during the flight. "Remember your training. Stay in pairs. Watch each other's backs. Use the environment. Be smart, not just brave. Our goal is to rescue civilians and hold until reinforcements arrive. We are not trying to be heroes. We are trying to survive and save lives." The transport ship approached Station Meridian. The station was dark. Emergency lights flickered weakly. The EMP had destroyed most systems. They docked manually and forced the airlock open. Inside the station, everything was chaos. The corridors were dark except for emergency strips along the floor. Smoke drifted through the air. Somewhere in the distance, they heard shouting and weapons fire. Not energy weapons, projectile weapons. The Skarath had come prepared for a technology failure. Taemin split his force into 3 groups. Velrax led one group to secure the civilian shelters. Kalos led another to protect the medical bay. Taemin took the remaining students toward the command center where defenders were trapped. They moved through the corridors carefully. Jiwoo walked beside Taemin, sensing for thoughts ahead. Their telepathy still worked when technology did not. 4 Skarath ahead, Jiwoo whispered. Around the corner. "They are not expecting us," Taemin signaled his team. They spread out, using the tactics he had taught them. Move quietly. Use surprise. Strike fast and hard. The Skarath were reptilian with scales and claws. They carried projectile weapons but were focused on a sealed door they were trying to break through. They did not see the cadets until it was too late. The fight was quick and brutal. Dax struck first, disabling one Skarath with a precise hit to the knee. Jiwoo followed the patterns they had drilled, working as a team with another cadet to take down a second enemy. Taemin handled the largest Skarath, using the techniques that had defeated Velrax months ago. In less than a minute, all 4 Skarath were down. The cadets were breathing hard but uninjured. They had done it. Real combat, not training, and they had won. Taemin opened the sealed door. Inside, 20 terrified station personnel huddled together. They stared at the cadets in disbelief. "We are from the academy," Taemin said. "We are here to help. Stay behind us and move when I tell you." They rescued group after group. Each fight taught them something new. They learned to adapt their training to the chaos of real combat. They learned to trust each other completely. They learned that being scared was normal, but they could function through the fear. Not everyone escaped injury. Dax took a cut across his arm. Jiwoo got knocked down hard and limped afterward, but they kept moving, kept fighting, kept protecting the civilians they found. The Skarath began to realize something was wrong. Their attacks were being stopped. Their forces were being defeated. They had expected helpless victims. Instead, they found organized resistance that did not need technology to fight back. In the medical bay, Velrax's group held their position against repeated attacks. The instructor fought with new confidence, using everything Taemin had taught him. His students followed his lead, defending the wounded and the doctors treating them. 6 hours after the academy team arrived, the Skarath began to retreat. They had not expected this kind of resistance. They had not prepared for enemies who could fight effectively without technology. Their attack was failing. By the time galactic reinforcements arrived, the station was secure. 3,000 civilians had been evacuated to safe areas. The Skarath forces had been driven back or captured, and the academy cadets had proven that technology was not the only thing that mattered in combat. Taemin sat in a medical bay, getting a deep cut on his side, treated. Jiwoo sat next to him, their skin cycling through exhausted colors. "We did it," Jiwoo said quietly. "We actually did it." "You did it," Taemin corrected. "All of you. I just taught you the basics. You applied them when it mattered." Kalos limped over. His scales were scratched and dented, but he was grinning. "The defenders thought we were crazy when we arrived with metal bars and knives. By the end, they were asking us how we learned to fight like that." Velrax joined them. He looked tired but satisfied. I spent 15 years teaching combat theory. Today I learned what combat really means. Thank you for that lesson, Lieutenant. Taman shook his head. We taught each other. Human methods, alien perspectives. Both together made us stronger. Commander Bora arrived to debrief them. She looked at the tired, injured, but victorious students with obvious pride. The Galactic Military Command wants to meet with you, she told Taman. What you accomplished here has made them reconsider their entire combat doctrine. They want to know how to implement your training across all forces. This was not just me, Taman said. This was all of us, humans and aliens working together. That is exactly what they need to hear, Bora said. The future is not about humans teaching aliens. It is about everyone learning from each other, combining the best of every species. That night, exhausted but unable to sleep, Taman stood at a viewing port looking at the stars. So much had changed since he first arrived at the academy. He had been alone, judged, called primitive. Now he was a teacher, a leader. A bridge between worlds. Jiwoo found him there. What are you thinking about? They asked. About how we started, Taman said. You were afraid of me. Afraid of what humans represented. Jiwoo's skin shifted to warm orange. I was, but I learned that violence is not evil. It is just a tool. What matters is why you use it and how you control it. You taught me that humans carry violence carefully, like a sharp knife, dangerous but also useful. And what did I learn from you? Taman asked. Jiwoo thought about it. That teaching is also a kind of strength. That sharing knowledge is better than keeping it secret. That we are all stronger together than we are alone. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars, human and alien, teacher and student, friends who had fought together and survived together. The galaxy was changing, and they were part of that change. Not through weapons or technology, but through understanding, through respect. Through the simple act of learning from each other. That, Taman thought, was the real victory.